Very good afternoon to you, and it's good to have you with us. We start with this. The United States President-elect Donald Trump is set to take his oath of office for a second non-consecutive term tomorrow. As is tradition, Inauguration Day will be filled with ceremony as one president leaves the White House and another moves in. Our correspondent, Malone, joins us live from Washington, D.C. this evening. Caroline, good evening to you. And thanks for your time. The weather, a huge talking point in the United States. Tell us why.
It absolutely is. You can probably see some remnants of snow behind me. It's hovering around 0 degrees Celsius right now, but for actual Inauguration Day, for Monday itself, the temperature's due to drop to about minus 10 degrees Celsius or even lower with the wind chill factor. And that's meant that at the last minute, the Trump Inauguration Committee has had to make this decision to move indoors to hold all the ceremonies actually inside Capitol Hill, inside the congressional buildings. Now, that's obviously been a big change because what you would usually have is the new president being inaugurated out in public so that thousands, potentially tens of thousands of people could line the streets, line the parks and be outside to watch these events. What is actually going to be happening, though, is they'll be holding the ceremony inside what's known as the Rotunda. That's a historical chamber within Congress itself. And then there'll be viewing screens for people to watch, including in a place called Capitol Arena. That's usually a sports arena for sports such as ice hockey and basketball here in Washington, D.C. But that will be used for people to be able to view what's happening on the screens. It's also being used on Sunday at 3 p.m. Crowds are due to gather there to watch Donald Trump live give a speech. He is due to give a speech probably after people gather, so maybe 4, 5, 6 p.m. in the evening here. That crowd could be up to 20,000 people because that is an arena that can hold a good size number of people there. But certainly it has had a great impact on, trying to look after people, really, when they consider how cold it's going to get. And so they've had to make this last-minute decision to move the main event indoors.
Let's talk about another massive story that is probably going to get a mention in that speech of the president when it does take to the podium tomorrow. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised speech before the ceasefire deal kicked in today, stressing that the ceasefire was quote unquote temporary and that Israel reserves the right to resume strikes on Gaza. How is that likely to go down with Donald Trump, who is on record as saying he wants to end the war in the Middle East, including the one between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, absolutely. We know, of course, now that at least 3 hostages have been released from Gaza. So the beginnings of this ceasefire deal are already happening. That process is underway. But you rightly point out there that Netanyahu has expressed that they reserve the right to return to conflict, to return to war, if things don't pan out in phase 2 of what could be a potential longer-term ceasefire deal. Now, Donald Trump, the president-elect, has historically been very supportive of all things Israel. We know that President Biden, the current leader, of course, has been as well. But in a lot of ways, Trump and the Republican Party that he represents are even more supportive of the likes of Netanyahu in Israel. So while he has said that he really does want there to be a ceasefire deal, if Netanyahu then does say the conditions are not ripe, Trump has always said that he would continue to support Israel. And that's what we heard from Netanyahu in his speech, in which he said he has the full backing of the United States. I think we can expect that more so than ever, Donald Trump and his administration will continue to support Netanyahu. What perhaps is slightly different, though, between these administrations and the United States is the type of leverage that could be used or willingly would be used to pressure Israel to come to a ceasefire deal if there was a phase 2 in the future. We've heard of Trump in the past, particularly in his last administration, being a deal maker. That is something that he likes to say about himself. He likes to create ceasefire deals. He likes to create business deals. And certainly it has been said by political analysts in Washington, D.C., that they do think that Donald Trump would perhaps be willing to use more pressure on Israel if it did come to a situation in which there was a chance that this ceasefire deal could be broken. I think a lot of people here, though, are sort of watching and waiting, really. They are, cautiously optimistic, I think you could say, that this current ceasefire deal will continue, that it will hold at least for the 6 weeks that it's supposed to. And then potentially after that, there could be a further agreement in which Israel and Hamas and others related in the region do agree to hold this tentative peace for longer. There is, of course, some other deals that could be on the cards, particularly for the Trump administration. When he was last in power, he was supportive and helped sign into power the Abraham Accords. That's where Israel normalized its relations with other countries, including Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, as well as Morocco and Sudan. And there is some suggestion now that with this initial phase 1 deal on the cards between Israel and Hamas, that there could be an expansion of the Abraham Accords going forward if this tentative peace does hold.
Yeah. Finally and briefly, Caroline, let's talk about interesting names that may have confirmed attendance tomorrow at the inauguration. Any interesting names that have come up yet?
Well, there absolutely are. You're right to point that out. I think among the most interesting are all the tech CEOs and executives that we are expecting to see lined up, potentially even side by side, to watch Trump be inaugurated. We know, of course, that Elon Musk has been a strong supporter of Trump. He is due to lead the Trump administration's DOGE, or efficiency department, going forward. They are tasked with trying to reduce spending, essentially. But we could also see the likes of Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. We could see, Jeff Bezos of Amazon. We could see Zuckerberg, related to Meta and Facebook and Instagram, also due to be at the event watching Trump be inaugurated. All of those people, incidentally, have also donated to the Trump Inaugural Committee. So I think we can see definitely strong tech support for President Trump going forward.
Caroline Malone, our correspondent in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for this evening, and we can look forward to more reports from Caroline Malone as indeed we edge ever so close to Inauguration Day.